one of the most recent miracles that I've seen is working with a youth that we'll call Mary. And I started working with Mary when she was housed at juvenile hall. And she was a minor. And she was what they call a security risk, which means that she had been charged with a serious crime. So Mary would come into the class once a week. And because she was a security risk, that meant that she was going to be there for a long time. So she ended up staying there for a year. And she was gang affiliated, and a little rough at first. But what I noticed from the beginning is that when we started talking about the principles, there was this curiosity about wanting to know more. She wanted to know more. So we started talking about how she and everybody really creates their experience of life moment to moment via this ability that we have to create, which is really a fabulous gift that sometimes without knowing we use it as a weapon against ourselves. And as we were talking about thought, I mentioned, or somebody mentioned, just because you have a thought that pops into your head, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And at that moment she said, oh my God, if I would have known this 6 months ago, I wouldn't be here. So life goes on, and she continues to be there, and she continues to have just a phenomenal amount of insights, and the depth were, pretty big. And so what started happening to her physically also is that she started looking softer. She was not as edgy. She was just gentler in her appearance. And we continue to talk about the principles. We continue to talk about the fact that inherently as a human being, she's connected to the life and intelligence of the universe. And that this is something that no matter where she's at, no matter what she's done, it's a lifeline that she can always depend on. So due to her age, she was transferred to an adult facility. And one day before she left, and after a year that we've been spending time together, she asked me, do you think they're going to let me go? And I said to her, I don't know if they're going to let you go, but I know that wherever it is you are, you have exactly what you need to be well. So it doesn't matter. And for whatever reason, that stuck with her. And in a way, probably that was profound. So she was transferred to the adult facility, and she stayed in solitary confinement for 2 months, which means she comes out every other day for 45 minutes and she's back into the cell. It's called maximum security. And again, that is because of the nature of the crime that she was charged with. So after a while, I decided I was going to go visit her, which is kind of unusual for me. I usually don't do that, but I just thought, I'm going to go visit her. And I was a little concerned because I've worked in jails before, and what I've noticed before is that when somebody's in jail for a while, they turn this gray color, their skin, and I thought it was lack of sun or, diet or something. And so I was sitting in the room, and I could hear her coming to the little room, and the shackles are coming, and when she came into the room, she was glowing. Her spirit was glowing, and she had rosy cheeks, and she's like, hey, how are you doing? And I was shocked because I was expecting something really different. And then I noticed that she was double shacked, which means, her hands are connected to her waist with a chain and her feet, and it was an afterthought. And I was shocked, because I just know that after people have been in solitary confinement, there's a certain look, and this kid didn't have that look, right? So anyway, we go visit, and I ask her, so how are you doing? She goes, I'm doing great. And I'm like, are you in solitary confinement? Oh yeah, I'm in solitary confinement. And and you're doing great? Yes, I'm doing great. And I've been sharing the principles for a while with people, but sometimes when these things happen, I get surprised, even now, that something like this could happen. And I left the visit, and I was shocked in a good way. I was grateful. So we continued to visit, and what started happening is that other inmates that are older would go up to her room, her cell, to ask her for help or to ask her for advice. And so I would go into the visits, and I would share books that Sydney Banks had written that we would read together. She would share the copies with other people. And I asked her, what helped you? What has helped you? And she says, knowing that no matter where I am, I'm going to be okay, has allowed me to be okay here. And this is not that big of a deal. And then she proceeded to say to me, this was the best incarceration, or the insight, I guess. The insight that she's had during incarceration was the best thing that could have happened to her, because it allowed her to regain her life. At one point, she was looking at 17 years of being in prison, and she entered juvenile hall when she was 17. And even in the face of this, she was able to keep hope. And it's not like she was in denial, she knew what she was doing, but she was able to keep hope. And so as a result, then she started accessing some programs that were available to her, like getting her GED or getting this or getting that, right? Well, today, she's still in jail. She's going to be going to trial. But when you talk to her, she's got so much more freedom than many people that are outside. And that's what I call a miracle. When somebody's spirit just frees themselves of a kind of thinking that limits them as human beings, and that limits them from the possibility of experiencing joy and the potential for well-being in their lives.